Thank you for joining our webinar with SkyFi, Improving the Passenger Journey from Curb to Gate. I'm Alyssa Mathis, the Aviation Strategic Account Manager at Convergint. Today, I am joined by Brendan Mass and Stephen Callender from SkyFi to discuss how you can leverage your passenger data to act decisively, increase efficiency, and improve the passenger journey. We will have a Q&A at the end, so please feel free to submit your questions and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Thank you. Brendan, you can go ahead now.
Awesome. Thank you, Alyssa. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brendan Mass, VP of Service Delivery here at SkyFi. With me is Mr. Stephen Callender. He's our VP of Solutions Consulting. Today, we'll be discussing the challenges that airports face and how we can address those challenges by getting a deeper understanding of the passenger journey with actionable data. Then, as Alyssa was talking about, we'll wrap up with a Q&A with Stephen and Alyssa. Here at SkyFi, we draw upon a vast global experience. We've serviced a variety of verticals, over 11,000 venues, and we process 11 billion data points every single day. With our CrowdVision product, we service airports all over the globe, including 50% of the top US airports. Our foundation is built on a data intelligence platform that captures, connects, and unifies your data sources, and this helps provide a holistic end-to-end view of your airport operations. From here, our data science team works with you to verify the accuracy of data and then aggregates it and anonymizes it, ensuring that all the data is GDPR compliant. Then you can access intelligent insights to address your challenges. This results in positive changes in your operations, which ultimately leads to a better passenger and travel experience. Airport operations and passenger journeys continuously evolve. Our goal is to future-proof your strategy by helping you understand your past and present data so you can meet today's challenges while planning for the future. Now, before we dive in, I'd like you to think about everything your airport has been through in the past 2 years. Think about the ways you've had to innovate, reorganize, and manage expectations. Now think about where you're at today. What are your airport's priorities? Last summer, ACI Europe published a report on passenger flow and crowd management during the COVID-19 crisis and beyond. The report discusses the new priorities that airport managing bodies are now facing. The first priority is to ensure passengers have enough space. Airports must limit crowding and optimize the floor space. The second is reducing time spent at the premises. Airports must provide an efficient and fast passenger processing and offer attractive but safe entertainment and retail services. The third priority is to save the business. Airports must determine how to maximize their revenues through high-value services while adhering to new safety protocols without taxing your resources. ACI states that in order to meet these challenges, airports must understand the passenger behavior, and we couldn't agree more. Our global experience provides us a unique understanding of the challenges that are faced by each continent and region, each type of airport, whether it be domestic, regional, or international, within the context of the passenger mix, from tech and travel savvy to casual. So let's take a look at the passenger journey. I'll show you how understanding passenger behavior can help make positive changes that impact your overall operations. We'll start by following a departing passenger journey. Once your passenger reaches a car park, your main goal is to help them park easily and quickly. You need to understand and predict which parking zones are most utilized or by airline or terminal schedules. Then optimize zones by understanding your occupancy based on time of the day or day of the week. These historical and real-time trends help you better plan optimal locations for the entries and exits. Plus, you can better plan signage to decrease congestion, providing the passenger with a more efficient journey. As soon as a passenger enters your airport, now they're going to head to the check-in. The main goal here is to maximize throughput, which increases the amount of passengers you can service. When you speed up processing times, it makes the passenger journey less stressful and more efficient to help ensure your staff is not overburdened. In order to do this, it's important to understand the types of passengers that need to check in. Are they flying regional, domestic, or international? Do they have bags they need to check? Once we know that, we can optimize. By monitoring and managing kiosk and desk use and alerting staff when queues need attention, you can reduce congestion, staffing costs, and ensure efficient passenger journeys. Once a passenger checks in, now they're going to head to security. A global passenger survey from 2021 found that only 22% of passengers were satisfied with the time taken for security processing. Now, this is a negative sentiment, but it's also a fantastic opportunity to improve. At security, our goal is to keep the queues short and moving quickly in order to reduce missed flights. When you're able to display checkpoint wait times to passengers, monitor queues and alert staff when they need attention or redirection, you can more easily manage the throughput of each checkpoint. This allows you to optimize staffing and reduce operating costs. Not to mention, your passengers are going to feel less stress and anxiety. Once a passenger makes their way through security, they'll pass through the retail areas, and your goal here is to better serve passengers' needs and preferences so you can maximize revenue. In order to do so, you have to understand your passengers better, and that's where analytics come in. They can allow you to understand the right mix of brands and categories that passengers prefer or that are complementary to one another. By understanding how effective different retailers are at attracting passengers, you can better optimize your tenant mix across terminals. You can also make data-driven decisions about the best location for retailers and which types promote cross-sell, among others. You can even communicate in real time with passengers. With automated campaigns, you can deliver targeted retail offers, promote amenities and services, and deliver relevant information about your airport. Then you can understand how marketing campaigns, promotions, and product launches impact the visitation behavior and conversion. You can also measure the impact of spend across multiple marketing channels to drive in-store visits, conversions, and even loyalty. So passengers can fully relax once they make it to the gate. If you can help them arrive on time, you'll reduce the missed flights, optimize your gate scheduling, and reduce your overall terminal congestion. You can do this by correlating flight information data from AODB systems with historical passenger movement data. You can use that to predict curb-to-gate journey times, providing lead times when passengers are likely to arrive at their gate. Once passengers have a moment to put their bags down, take a seat, they usually hop on their phones or laptops. This allows you an opportunity to collect rich information about passengers when they log into your Wi-Fi. You can create unique passenger segments to analyze how different types of passengers use your airport. And that in turn helps you build and measure the performance of targeted marketing campaigns. Now let's look at the other side of the journey. As a passenger arrives at their destination, there are two types of passengers, those who have arrived at their destination and those who are connecting to another flight. Once they deplane, they're often looking for a restroom or a baggage area claim. An integrated system means that you can update digital wayfinding screens in real time and direct passengers to the closest and least congested restroom or their specific baggage claim carousel. This keeps passengers informed, creates a more efficient journey, and prevents crowding from forming outside of the gates. You can also monitor the last time a facility like a restroom was cleaned and stocked. This allows airports to keep their facilities as clean as possible without exhausting staff because you're cleaning based on need rather than fixed schedules. After a restroom break, a connecting passenger may head to the retail area for a snack or to peruse some shops. Then they're going to make it to their gate. However, a destination journey looks a bit different. A destination passenger's main goal is to collect their luggage and exit the airport. So let's take a brief look at that journey. If a passenger is arriving from another country, they'll first need to pass through immigration before exiting the airport. A 2021 passenger survey showed that only 38% of passengers said they were satisfied with the queuing time in immigration and border control. This is where an integrated analytics platform gives you the opportunity to provide a better experience. You can access real-time data to help determine whether passengers are at risk for misconnections. If they are, airlines can preemptively rebook passengers. This gives passengers relief and reduces the operational expenses from missed flight connections. You can also strategically open and close lanes based on occupancy, allowing staff to inform passengers of processing and queue times, which can auto-balance the queues. Once a passenger finishes immigration, they're eager to collect luggage, and letting the passenger know which way to go is the key. This helps eliminate congestion, continues to provide the passenger that efficient journey, so digital wayfinding screens can update based on autonomous real-time data, directing passengers to baggage claim and providing them with bay numbers for their luggage pickups. After a passenger has collected their luggage, they're ready to make their exit from the airport. Your real-time data can dynamically update screens to direct passengers to the quickest Uber, Lyft, taxi, shuttle, or train. You can also use passenger motion analytics to develop and plan pickup location points to decrease your vehicle and passenger congestion. Combined, this is a cohesive solution that ensures passengers and vehicles can enter and exit the airport premises as efficiently as possible. Now that we've covered how understanding passenger behavior can help you address all of the 3 priorities that airports are facing, we'll share how analytics helps your overall terminal operations. A big priority for airport executives is to make sure your staff doesn't experience burnout, even in the dynamically changing operations. Motion analytics helps you discover how changes in staff allocation impacts queue times and checkpoint throughputs. You can also forecast and trigger maintenance and cleaning cycles from detailed occupancy counts. This allows you to better plan staff numbers and schedules to reduce operating costs and passenger congestion. Another way to improve your airport is to plan the ideal asset placement. You can understand the best locations for assets like information screens and kiosks, e-passports and biometric scanners, common use equipment, luggage trolleys, and even ticketing systems. This helps create a more informed and efficient passenger journey, which improves sentiment and decreases congestion. A priority for all airports is to ensure health and safety of passengers and staff. It's now possible to measure crowd density and provide notifications to airport staff when social distancing policies are not being followed or if incidents occur. In the event of an incident, like a fire or a spill, real-time motion analytics can alert staff to provide the swiftest response. Passengers also notice when airports are on top of the health and safety protocols, and it's a simple way to increase the passenger sentiment. Now, speaking of keeping passengers happy, it's also a good idea to gauge where the sentiment level is and how to improve it. With an integrated platform, you can automatically trigger surveys to passengers based on their location, segmentation, and specific journey through your airport. This data helps you gain insight into which factors are the biggest impact on passenger experience in order to improve satisfaction. Not only is it important to keep passengers happy, but also your advertisers. Motion analytics helps you understand the optimal location for advertising and digital signage based on passenger flow, dwell, and segmentation information. This rich passenger movement and segmentation data increases your advertising yield for your media buyers. By better understanding traffic flow, journey times, and congestion, you can make more informed decisions about how and where to improve your efficiency, design, development, and layout. When it comes to improving performance and efficiency of your airport, understanding the occupancy patterns is very important. It can drive greater efficiency and reductions in your HVAC and lighting energy consumptions. In fact, once you make any improvement in your airport from an efficiency, design, or layout perspective, you can see if it actually led to a result. You can compare data before and after your venue changes and understand if there was a real positive change. The accuracy of your forecast models for the ROI of future development projects increases dramatically as well. So you're now well-versed on how passenger analytics helps your overall terminal operations. So where do you start if your airport is interested in implementing a crowd analytics solution? Here's where ACI shares some more insight. They point out that when you're considering what kind of solution to implement at your airport, it's important to choose an integrated platform. This is the type of platform that can ingest any type of sensor or existing data and can work airport-wide by default. This will serve as the core of your total airport management solution. They also note that a passenger flow and crowd management solution is an investment in time and resources, but it'll deliver ongoing value well into the future. An integrated platform allows you to act decisively to increase efficiency and profitability while improving the passenger experience. Over time, this data can build and provide reliable evidence for planning, maintenance, management, and investment decisions. SkyFi's CrowdVision solution leverages data from various sources so airports can get real-time information about movement, occupancy, and dwell time throughout all areas. This knowledge allows airports to optimize staffing at check-in and security, take action to reduce crowding and long queues, and communicate directly with passengers so they can own their journey. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our subject matter expert, Mr. Stephen Callender, for a Q&A.
Really quickly, before we start our Q&A, I just want to cover one important point about the partnership between Convergint and SkyFi. So Convergint has access to what we call cooperative purchasing vehicles. There are three main ones in the US: Sourcewell, Omnia, and NCPA. These vehicles can be used to procure products and services while supplementing the bid process. You don't have to go out to bid. Convergint has bid to these companies, and we have been put on their vehicles for use along with some of our product partners, including SkyFi. So through this, we can help any of our clients identify a need, work through the process of quoting that need, and then supplying them with a quote that meets that bid process and gives them the opportunity to buy without going out to bid. So, the big three, Sourcewell, Omnia, and NCPA, the other big thing to mention here is that in Canada, Sourcewell is now also partnered with Canoe, and that can be used in any of the Canadian provinces as well. With that, we will move on to the Q&A. Thank you. Perfect. So Stephen, first question that I have in here for you: how do you decide what type of technology is best suited to solve our challenge of managing queue times?
Yeah, great question. So for any kind of project where we're starting off, it always starts with specific needs for different types of analytics to solve a problem. And we do a bit of a deep dive. It's a process we call solution design. So we'll take a look at the physical space. We'll kind of do a deep dive with our customers to understand exactly what type of information they want from that space, and then we'll do a planning session where we look at the different technologies that we have at our disposal to deploy, and we'll make selections that way. One thing to note is that we commonly actually combine different technologies together. There are a few different things that we kind of keep into consideration. It's what is the physical layout of the space? If we're putting in new sensor infrastructure, where can we mount them? We have the option to go on ceilings or walls or any place that's convenient. So that's a big consideration. And the complexity of the area is also really important. You mentioned queuing. One of our most commonly chosen technologies for queues and really complex areas are LiDAR sensors. LiDAR sensors are able to cover large areas and get really, really precise data without requiring a lot of sensor infrastructure. So we'll plan a system for queues commonly around that. We will come back to our customer proposing the sensor models and kind of just, educating their customers on why we chose those. We'll talk about where they should go for optimal coverage. Usually we choose that based on where we think there could be cables run easily without having to kind of tear up the airport. And then we'll tweak that design based on customer feedback, and then we'll provide a plan and a timeline for doing that. We always make sure that there's a little bit of room for growth or some changes that are happening. We like to anticipate any kind of future construction. We like to anticipate future growth in passenger demand, like we're seeing now. The great thing about these sensors, in particular for queues, is that we don't have to be right over on top of all the eventual possibilities for queuing locations. We can actually do a lot of just reconfiguration remotely on software alone, and be able to expand to additional queues or make sure that we're covering additional overflow that might be occurring. So that's kind of our process. It's definitely a collaborative one. We take budgets into consideration. We take the specific look of an airport, and we take feedback from a facilities or IT team with regard to what we could do for infrastructure around cabling and computing. So yeah, that's usually how we start all of our projects.
Thanks, Stephen. And if anyone has questions, you can just drop them in the chat and we will look at them through there, but we do have a couple more on the list. So next, how long does it take to implement a data solution and get it up and running?
Yeah, it depends on the type of solution. There are some that are especially fast, and there are some that take a little bit more planning. Our Wi-Fi analytics solution is one of the fastest because it typically relies wholly on pre-existing infrastructure. So we'll tap into the Wi-Fi access points that you have and begin pulling data into our analytics platform, which takes all that data from the whole reach of your Wi-Fi system, and it starts to present insights as far as repeat visits, dwell time, crowding in kind of a heat mapping type of fashion, busy times throughout the day. Everything can be kind of carved up into different zones. So that's a fairly fast one, and it has a really broad reach. And then we have ones that take a little bit more planning, which would be if we're going to install any additional sensors, like people counters, if you want to know how many people are going through a certain entrance or a certain doorway. And then also LiDAR sensors that will need consideration for mounting in different locations. But in terms of actually implementing the data solution, there are a number of different ways that our customers will do this. We provide all the analytics through our I/O platform, which is a really, really rich, mature piece of software where you can have the data that we produce, and then also some third-party data. It supports over 200 third-party integrations. You can layer on weather data. You can layer on data from some of your other systems. But we also understand that a lot of airports have a pretty mature data analytics organization inside, and probably already have your own set of tooling. So what we'll do then is we'll provide access also through the Sky-Fi API, where you have access to actually pull in every single analytic into a Tableau or a Power BI or any kind of other third-party data system. And this allows you to compare even more data sets altogether that are not actually hooked up through our platform. There are some really immediate results too from having this data at your fingertips. One of the most popular features from our platform is the mobile alerting system. So any user of our platform can go in and they can configure different alerts saying that they want to know whether an analytic has exceeded a threshold for a certain period of time. And they'll actually just, our system will automatically fire off a text message to their phone, describes the problem. This can also be by email if they don't want a text message, but because airport people are always on the go and they're not always at a certain location, they're not always glued to our dashboard, we totally understand this. We want to make sure that they have information immediately so that they can find the right response. So that's one of the more near-term impacts of integrating a data system.
Thanks, Stephen. Next question on the list we have is, how can we think about crowd analytics systems in terms of ROI for our airport?
Yeah, good one. I know that's always the big question whenever these are under consideration. I'll hit on a couple of them because I think depending on where the analytics are coming from and how they're used can have different impacts on ROI. But one of the big things is around making sure that there is enough time once passengers get through check-in and security, where they're not just running to their flight. Airports want passengers to have that just enough time kind of experience where they've got time to be a little leisurely. They can look around, they can shop, they can have a meal. They don't feel too rushed, but they also want them to not have too much time. So one of the things that we've done around, or a couple of the things that we've done around this are making sure that resourcing is done properly for both check-in and security. So wait times and passenger demand can be handled a lot more predictably if there is the data that we're offering being applied to staffing. So at a security checkpoint, there needs to be enough TDCs and scan lanes operating to meet passenger demand for times of the day where we can look back in historical analytics from our system and know that there's going to be a big rush. One of the things that we report, which we've worked directly with TSA on this, is not only just reporting occupancies and wait times of the queues, but also reporting resource utilization. So for any given time throughout the day or week or hour, you can see a wait time, you can see how many people were in each queue, but you can also line that up with how many TDCs were operational, how many scan lanes were operational. So that lets airport operators understand whether their security organization is able to actually do something like increase staff to be able to meet that demand, or if you're actually just at capacity, and that leads to kind of a different conversation. Same thing for check-in. We work in quite a few check-in halls to make sure that staffing at the check-in counters is adequate. We also show utilizations of kiosks, and kiosk usage can be a good indicator of whether kiosks are placed in the best locations in a check-in lobby. And the other benefit for that, which has a big impact on ROI, is reducing missed flights. So in the United States in particular, there's not a lot of coverage for check-in, but one of the things that we're seeing more recently, especially after post-pandemic travel is coming back, is that there's a lot of international travel. People are catching up, a lot more people are checking bags, and there are very surprising check-in times on top of an already decently long security time. So missed flights, as we all know, are a very expensive thing, and reducing those can have a huge impact when it comes to ROI of the system. The other thing I'll touch on is retail analytics. If your airport has a revenue share with concessionaires, one of the best solutions, and something that we do for about 30 plus airports, is we apply our Wi-Fi analytics solution to the concessions areas. So this gives the level of insight for marketing and kind of understanding past customer behavior is what we do outside of airports in a lot of different retail settings. Global restaurant chains are some of our bigger customers. We apply all of those really rich analytics you can get from Wi-Fi systems for airport concessionaires, and they can use that to try out different things to see if they can attract more visitors. Try out different marketing efforts on the front of the store. They can use this. They have this data at their fingertips to be able to increase sales. That has in turn a big impact on how much the airport can earn from their concessionaire revenue share. So a couple big ones there, but it's kind of a big topic to unpack.
Thanks, Stephen. I think that was a great talk of, the different ways that they can, present this to their teams as ROI and find the money to do these types of projects. We just have a couple more questions in the Q&A. So if an airport doesn't have a crowd analytics system currently, what do you recommend they start with as the area or the focus for their system? Because obviously we know you could start one place and grow these systems. So where do you guys recommend starting, if anywhere?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I think that we would always suggest that your biggest pain point is where we start. So it's probably most common that security checkpoints are the big pain point. If there's not currently a lot of data around passenger demand at a security checkpoint, it just commonly becomes it's the point where a lot of complaints come in, and I think that really kind of causes pain for the airport. So if that's the thing, then that's where we should start. We do lots and lots of security checkpoints, so and I think that's a good indicator of why, how it's so important. I think also just being a choke point. We want to focus on the choke points. We want to focus on the parts of the airport where passengers have to go through this experience, and they want to come out on the other side feeling like it was a positive experience. So security checkpoints probably being the most common. Check-in probably being number 2. Also depending on the airport, how much international travel we have, because I think domestically we don't check bags as much in the US at least. But then after that, some of the newer ones that have become really high priority are restrooms. So we have a restroom solution that is a single one sensor. It's a one sensor deployment. It just goes above the restroom door, and it gives lots of information about how the restrooms are used, and could in turn inform passengers if there are less congested restrooms elsewhere. We know from our airport customers that restroom cleanliness and how well stocked a restroom is, it becomes one of the biggest things that affects an NPS score. Complaints on review sites and so on commonly are all over this topic. And so what we do for our customers who are monitoring their restrooms are, we tell them what the busiest times are of the day, and this helps them guide their cleaning staff to go and make sure that they are attending those specific restrooms at the right time, ahead of when they think that they are going to get too messy, right? Too much water on the counter, too much water on the floor, paper towels everywhere. And they can really hone it in based on this data and how this data might change as flight schedules change, gate usage changes. It's something that evolves over time. The other thing is that when we're monitoring, when multiple sets of restrooms are available to passengers in a certain area of the airport, we want them to know that they have different options. You might not be able to see the adjacent restrooms when you're standing in front of one. It's probably the most common that you wouldn't, but we want to, some airports are using this information to actually guide passengers to another set of restrooms that's just a couple minutes away, where they could find far less congestion. The technology we're using not only counts people going in each direction, but it'll also count the occupancy of those restrooms throughout the day. And that's a really rich data set that can be used in a lot of different ways, especially in the midst of responding to COVID, and also just generally in forward thinking, trying to keep people out of really congested areas. That's a really key thing, because restrooms are one of those places that have the least ventilation.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen. Last question that we have received is, please elaborate on data access concerns and related end user data usage consents.
Okay. So of all the systems that, so a lot of our systems, so we subscribe to GDPR, let me answer it that way, when it comes to user data privacy. A lot of our systems, actually, I would say the majority of our systems do not actually collect any personally identifiable information from the start. So when we're looking at our people counting system sensors as a data source, when we're looking at our LiDAR sensors as a data source, there's actually no visual information, and we would actually not be able to identify a person just based on the data that those collect. So by design, those are compliant with even the most stringent data privacy policies. When we're looking at some of our data sets like Wi-Fi analytics, so Wi-Fi analytics do detect an individual device that is passing through an area. That's how it works. Their device is probing for a Wi-Fi connection. The Wi-Fi access points identify that device. We know roughly where that person is. Don't know their name, but we do know that it existed, right? So that is one piece of data that is closer to the unique individual. Now, when you look at some of our other features around our Wi-Fi solutions, we have our Engage platform where they can offer a captive portal. That captive portal can ask them their name, their email address. You can ask basically any information you want. It's configurable by our customers. It's really important for us to handle that data responsibly. So we store it securely. We only store it for as long as it's required. We follow the guidelines that GDPR has given us, and we take this very seriously. There are some customers who wish to put some notifications, even for some of our systems like LiDAR systems. They put signage in their airports that say, hey, by being here in this public space, you are consenting to be tracked anonymously by different sensing technologies. That is totally up to the airport if they want to do that. But I think that's one thing. If somebody's very concerned about any kind of backlash from passengers or just wanting to be overly cautious, that's something that I think is a good solution.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. Those were great answers to our questions. We don't have any more questions at this point in time. So I'm going to say we are going to end the webinar and we are going to say goodbye to everyone. But thank you so much for joining. If you have any other questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to myself. We have the marketing email for Sky-Fi there as well. And you can reach out to us through our websites as well if you need to. So thank you so much for joining and have a great day.